Hey y'all, I'm Alan Kay, and I wanted to quickly share what I think the first stanza could mean. Now, I agree with most of you that the first stanza is an introduction to the poem. Fenn went in somewhere alone with his treasures on his lap, and he's keeping a secret to himself. However, what if as I have gone alone in there is just a simile referring to all the places he's gone in alone? And his treasures bold could be his vivid imagination, and he keeps his secret in memories that are new and old, his riches. Now, a few examples of this in the book could be when he was in the graveyard, surviving myself, page 40. He writes, "Sometimes when it wasn't too cold, I'd get even with my father for switching me by jumping out of the window by my bed and walking down to the cemetery, which was just a block north of our house. It took guts to go in there when it was dark with no moon. I still remember the sense of accomplishment I felt when I sat on some dead guy's grave marker. I wasn't even afraid. A kid really has time to think in a graveyard." So he's in a graveyard, alone, it's dark, and he's thinking. Another example is when Skippy threw him out of the car in A Long Ride Home. He writes, "I had no money, no coat, and no shoes. I remember sitting down beside the road for about an hour to consider my lot in life and ponder if anything was left of my future. No cars passed and it was getting cold, so I started walking on the paved road in my socks." So again, he's alone. It's cold. He's pondering his life. This is a little bit different, but in the Texas A&M chapter, Stout-Hearted Men, on page 71, he writes, "The little country farm-to-market roads in that area were short and had many intersections, and it wasn't even easy catching a ride in the direction I needed to go. So that night, I slept under a tree with cows grazing all around me. It was a threshold moment in my life, but I didn't know it at the time." So again, he's alone, under a tree. It was a threshold moment in his life. Now, I think the most important reference of being alone and making an impact on his life is in My War for Me. And I'm going to use my imagination here and try to get in the mind of Fenn. I don't have an Air Force helmet. This is as close as I get. So Fenn's reading a flight log from in 1969 about a flight he took in 1956. I'm going to read a quick description of it. "At about midnight, I lifted off for a long, dark flight that would take me down the length of the eastern seaboard, across a blur of lights that never slept. Boston, Providence, Hartford, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Norfolk, and on. Because of the great distances involved, it was necessary to climb as high as possible, 49,000 feet to save fuel." Skipping down a little bit. "After a long climb to level off and cruise, I felt myself trying to go to sleep. Flying a plane at that altitude was difficult enough without that kind of problem. I remember the air was quiet, even over the large populated areas. No one was around. No one was on the radio. No one to talk to. The impersonal lights were there, but I was all alone. And in order to stay awake, I started playing stupid games, like moving my helmet from left to right and up and down, and lightly tapping on the canopy on both sides. That helped, but it was distracting, and I didn't want to break anything. Finally, I started moving my left hand in and out, looking at my glove as if I had not seen it before. Then, and for no reason at all, I closed my fist, stuck my thumb out, and moved it close to my face, an inch away from my left eye. My God! I had completely covered up Philadelphia. I had covered up millions of people with my thumb. The thought occurred to me that I was getting hypoxic, so I removed my glove, grabbed my flashlight, and looked at my fingernails. They looked normal. If I was lacking oxygen, they would have been purple. The blinker was winking at me." So that innocuous incident made me wonder how important an average individual could be in the whole scope of life. Skipping down. "Later, I laughed at myself and certainly wasn't going to tell anyone about the Philadelphia caper. The flight surgeon would have grounded me for sure, but I would remember the feeling it brought, and it would later tie into others that would be equally as humbling." So what the hell does that mean? Why did putting his thumb over his eye and looking down at Philadelphia make such a huge impact on his life? And how did that tie all these other events together? I'm just throwing ideas out there. I don't have the answers. But some ideas for why Philadelphia can be important. The Liberty Bell's there. Independence Hall. Fenn talks a lot about freedom. Little fun fact, Marvin Penn founded Philadelphia in 1862, and Forrest's dad's name is Marvin Fenn. Marvin Penn, Marvin Fenn. It was also a meeting place of the founding fathers, and we know how much Fenn loves George Washington. So anyways, just wanted to throw the idea of maybe this is all about imagination, and you got to use your imagination and then be in it where warm waters halt. So just wanted to say, don't be afraid to use your imagination, because your effort could be worth the cold. Cheers, and have fun on the chase.